Learn to be super successful. Subscribe to my channel, Meathead. Everything in the seminar, this 29 and a half years, is done for a reason. There's a method to my madness. And I explained to you last night, the first seminar was May 1993, given in one day. It went from 8 till 8 or 9, and then questions and answers were from 9 p.m. till 3 or 4 or 5 a.m., and I didn't leave until I answered everybody's questions. And all the material that you're going to get for this week was in one day. No handouts, no shit, no nothing. No selfies, no nothing. No breaks, no coffee, no water, no nothing. And slowly but surely over time, either time wore me down or I guess just time wore me down. And I got more conventional and I started to do things like give water, give coffee. And the last one-day seminar that I did, which was 2.5 years ago at Heathrow Airport, we actually fed them, for those of you that were there. Now, there's somebody here from March of 2020. Who's that? You. So you were here when they locked us down. Okay. And then you may be the last one, finally, that was part of that group. Because every seminar I said, well, what about the 2020 guys? And then when I asked, in fact, I forgot to ask this time, and they said, don't you want to know about the 2020 guys? And so, but they locked us down. The police came. It wasn't funny at all. It was a pain in the ass. So slowly but surely, the kids have been coming back that we owe them a seminar. Okay. But we do these things, and there's reasons for the homework, and there's reasons why the homework movies change from time to time. Last night you saw The Founder. We'll talk about that later. But I could just write a sentence up here. Almost all high-performance people are assholes. High performance at that level. Jobs, Musk, that kind of guy. The high-performance people at the lesser levels, second, third, and fourth tier guys, you can get down to the third or fourth tier, and maybe they may not be an asshole. But if you made hundreds of millions, you're probably an asshole. Yet, when we talk about goals in 2 or 3 days, many of you are going to put down, trillion, I want to be trillionaire. You don't even know what the fuck that means. About $250 million in the bank after taxes, your life changes. Your life changes. His brother's life has already changed, and he has nowhere near that in the bank, but I mean his life's changed. But there's a reason for all these I don't like to call them restrictions, but the more information we give you, the more data we give you, the more examples we give you, the more handouts we give you, the worse you do. Not worse it's almost imperceptible. I mean, it's almost that you can't tell. But if you look at the data like I do, the worse you do. And or the longer you take to do a deal. And to me, that's the worse you do. Now, I'm not asking you because I know the answer, and you may have your own idea why that is. But it's because humanity has gone to shit. As Stephen Hawking said in 2004, thereabouts, when he was still pretty coherent before, because he only died a year and a half ago, and he wasn't coherent at all, and he used that machine to talk, but he was still coherent with the machine. He said, we're one step away from a chimpanzee, these are my words, these aren't his words, we're one step away from a chimpanzee on a mediocre planet, that surely there are others that have more life or more advanced life than us, and the planet itself is past its apex. In other words, no matter what, and this is 2004, so this is 18 years ago. We were, in his judgment, already past, people are trying to keep plastic out of the sea and all this, goody two-shoe shit. In his judgment, we were already past it in 2004. I didn't come to that opinion until about 2008 or 9. So I was 4 or 5 years behind the great astrophysicist. And that's why, and when we talk about masculinity and the lack thereof, in 1998, average handshake of a woman was about 96 pounds pressure. The average handshake of a guy was about 104 pounds. So you know those machines that measure the pressure when you shake hands? That was in IDH. In 2018, the average handshake of a woman went up to 101 pounds, and the average handshake of a guy has gone down from 108 to 102. And we have all kinds of stats. The guys, less sperm cells, I can go on and on and on and on how we're through. The Romans had their time. There's various dynasties that have had their time, and ours is through. And the real reason, if you read carefully, that Jeff and Elon want to go to Mars, because this planet's through. All that coupled together makes it better for the QLA model. Because especially now that high interest rates, Corona, the war in Ukraine, as I alluded to last night, the people are afraid. People are afraid. And we have some pundits in the universe that watches YouTube, to the extent that that's a sample of any sorts, that say that the QLA model is against humanity because we're taking advantage of the weaknesses of humanity. We're taking advantage of the Achilles heels of humanity, which is absolutely correct. And that's exactly how I designed it. It's not illegal. It's not immoral. It's not unethical. But that's why this model works. Whether you can make it work is a different question. When you hear the various success stories that you can hear in the webinar, one, the most succinct is Thomas, the star from Canada. And he says, look in front of you, look behind you, look to the left of you, look to the right of you, and they're going to fail. Because there's normally 2 superstars in each group, and there's 4 or 5 also-rans. The also-rans mean they do deals, but it takes them a while to get with the program. Now, I talked about this young man yesterday. And he is the current flavor of the day for this program. Less than a year, $348 million. There's only 2 people that have ever done more business than that in less time. One of them sitting in front of you, and one of them's up there. To say it's astonishing is an understatement of biblical proportion. To say it's astonishing is is beyond the pale. Beyond the pale. But to say that it happened, the war, interest rates, and all the things that we've discussed or I've alluded to, and the fact that he did it in a shithole of America, he did it in the toilet of America, is remarkable. We're going to talk a lot more about his particular endeavor, and he came here last seminar on his own nickel to spend time with the seminar, and we have taped that, and that's not on YouTube. Okay, so you'll hear him. He came with his lovely wife. I remember him. He sat right there during the regular seminar. He only asked 3. I thought he asked 2 questions. He asked 3 questions. He refreshed my memory when he was here on the podium last year. Last seminar. And he asked 3 questions, of which he will say I screamed at him, because one of the questions he should have known the answer to if he read all the material. 2 of the questions were actually unique. And he did that $348 million, and 2 big deals, the deals that were, in his judgment, life changers, got away from him. So he did 348 with 2 significantly larger deals than this that got away from him. So you can't tell me. You can't tell me that you can't do the big numbers. We had a guy from Iran 2 seminars ago. He said, I want to know how you turned $60,000 into 200 million pounds in 99 days. He didn't say it that well because his English wasn't so good. Okay? But that's what he said. I want to know, I thought the seminar was about the Dinosaur deals. Dinosaur meaning the multi-billion-dollar deals, or elephant deals, which is like tens of millions deals. And so then I rattled off 7 or 8 dinosaur deals, which are available today, right today. And then I rattled off 4 or 5, which I do in the seminar, but he asked it the first day. And then I rattled off 4 or 5 that were elephant deals that we'll talk about during the seminar that are available right today. You don't have to come here. And then he didn't ask another question the rest of the seminar. So these kinds of deals are available. Although the model that I recommend for 99% of you is the way we talk about it. $750,000 to $1.2 million the first deal, $1.5 million to $2 million the second deal, $2 million to $2.5 million the third. And it's a stepping stone process where you're building up equity within your entity, which you'll own between 60 and 65% of, if you follow the steps. And then at the end of, when you have 25 transactions like Andres Milner does, you'll have built up 100 million in equity, of which to your account, not to the total, if you follow the steps. But now you don't know this, but I know that hardly any of you in this room will follow the steps. And I told at least one of you, I think the young lady back there, I will say some things 25, 30, 50 times. And some of you that think you're brighter will say, why in the fuck does the old man keep repeating himself? Does he have dementia? No, because I know you're not going to do it. It's like, you're like raising kids. I was a shitty father and I'm a shitty grandfather. Because I didn't do a lot of the required things that you think or you read about good parents and good grandparents. I didn't do any of those. Okay? But the little bit that I was involved with my children growing up, and they're all in their mid to late 30s now. Actually, we have one that's 40. Is that I know how to repeat myself a lot of goddamn times. You don't want to stick your tongue in the plug. You know where you plug in electric shit? Derek, you don't want to stick your tongue in there. Derek, you don't want... I don't know how many fucking times I told him. By the grace of God, he's not dead. And telling you that you're not going to follow the steps is the same as our middle child sticking his tongue in the fucking plug. And you're not going to do it. Some of you in this room already know you're not going to do it. Some of you in this room are here to cherry pick. Everybody understand cherry pick? Okay, it's like you have a menu and you're going to pick certain things off the menu. The QLA menu is 1 through 7, and you got to start at 1 and you got to end at 7. You can't go to 4. Most of you are going to go to 4. And then you're going to write an email to Kim when you're in trouble. And Kim will, and you'll say it's an emergency. Some of you will be crying, not just the gals. Some of you will be crying. And when I look at it weekly, I look at this report weekly. You call like it's right now, but I look at it weekly and it's normally over the weekend right now, like Sunday. Today's Sunday, right? Yeah. Sunday. And then I'll go back to my book and I'll say, was he ever late to class? How did I grade his homework? Did he ask stupid questions? And I'll go through this and then I'll tell Kim, I'm busy. Because everybody in this room will fall victim to at least one of the 5 or 6 things I benchmark, whether I'm ever going to talk to you again. The only person that's come through the program in 29 and a half years that almost did it perfect was Andres Milner, and he was 95%. 95%. I talked to him yesterday. I would normally do that. And so then you'll go on Reddit, as I alluded to last night. You'll go on Reddit. There's still a Reddit, isn't there? Yeah. You'll go on Reddit and you'll say QLA doesn't work. And what you should say is, I didn't work QLA properly and it didn't work for me. You had your hand up, young man.
I have a question. So can you give us an example of emergency situation?
No, there is nothing in your life will be an emergency to me. Nothing. We go through about 20, one of which is your chairman took your deal and stole it and ran like a thief in the night, like a Russian thief in the night. That's not an emergency to me.
So basically that means
There are no emergencies.
Okay, we're not
don't waste
supposed
your
to
time
contact.
calling me.
Okay.
If that's not an emergency, I'll give you a real life example. About 2 years ago, we had a kid, and we actually, we read 2 letters, or emails, were emergency emails that weren't an emergency to me. But anyway, and you will think both of them are emergencies. He's walking down Piccadilly in London. And he walks by Starbucks. And he sees his chairman, his CEO, and his CFO sitting in a booth having coffee. He knew nothing about the meeting. And I normally ask, what would you do? But I know what you would do. You would just walk away with your tail between your legs like a cunt. And he calls Kim while he's standing about 2 blocks from Starbucks. He actually went across the street so he could look into Starbucks, have a better angle. And they took the deal away from him. It doesn't happen all the time, but it happens at least a half a dozen times a year. But when it happens to you, it's 100%, right? You don't give a shit about all these other jerks. And it happens. And when they call Kim, occasionally they get through to Kat because Kim didn't pick up the phone, or they get through to Red because Kat and Kim didn't pick up the phone. And once in a while, when everybody's out and Sally picks up the phone, and she doesn't do that very much, but when Sally picks up the phone, because instead of going in there, I would have hit, if there was a teapot, I would have hit the fucking chairman in the face with a teapot, and I'd go to jail. There's certain things we're dying for in this world still. It's just like the test that we give you, most of which you failed. There's a question about somebody either spit in your girlfriend's face, or I forget how it's phrased. And what's the failure rate now?
98%.
98% of you fail. The answer that you give me back, or you give the webmaster back, is that I would try to ascertain what his state of mind was before he spit in my wife's face. Now, what in the fuck does that have to do with anything? Whether he was having a good day or not. He spit in your old lady, used to be what you called your wife. He spit in your old lady's face, you fucking little cunts. But that's where we are, and that's why Homo sapiens through, which enforces and validates the QLA model. The only difference is we teach you how to be slightly less afraid than the sellers. But you're still a cunt. You still squat the pee. You still ought to use tampons. We used to have tampons in vagina cream shit on the desks, for those of you that we even had a webinar to show you how to use it. We can't shame you. You've got no fucking shame left in your fucking body because you're such a cunt. And then finally, when the pharmacy ran out, not once, not twice, but 3 times, it's because I'm the only one apparently in Scotland that's buying this shit, we stopped doing it. So you have no shame. And by the way, giggling and smiling is a coping mechanism for lack of self-esteem and lack of self-confidence. Just for those of you gigglers and smilers. But we'll spend a lot of time talking about TK. Those are his first 2 initials. And the success that he's had. And he thinks that he hasn't been that successful. Success and failure leaves clues. Normally you've seen the slide, success leaves clues. Correct. But success and failure. And the reason why, the example that I give you, like the reason why that I know you're not going to do it, and when they steal your deal away, you're just going to melt away and walk away with your tail between your legs, is because we have countless examples. Countless. Countless. The best is when they take it away from you at your first board meeting. That's the most fun, for me anyway. And you just, you leave the boardroom and just with your tail between your legs. How bad do you want it? How much sacrifice are you willing to go through? Emotional sacrifice. I've told the 4 or 5 or 6 people that I saw yesterday on your one-on-one time, the people that get focused first and stay focused the longest win in the QLA model. Focus first and stay focused the longest win in the QLA model. Now, on a recent trip, this is an island in the Greek Isles where they live to be 110, 115, okay? This is you. Nobody's got a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of. They're all dirt poor on the Greek equivalent of relief or government money. Or on the dole in this country. That's their source of revenue. Nobody ever asked that question, except I did. But they lived to be, there was guys there 108, 110 years old that look better than some of you in this fucking room. But they don't do anything. All they do is, and this Mediterranean diet, that's bullshit. They eat regular, they have moderate exercise, and they have more than moderate sex, even in the hundreds. But they have no money. They can't leave that island. The only income they have is when people like me come to stare at them because of tourism. That's what I equate you to. You can live to be 110, 115, but you're going to be poor. In my family, the older men live to middle 90s, the women live to the late 90s, early 100s. And that's what doing nothing. So I had to live, I don't know how long I'm going to live, but I'm going to live a lot longer than that. Now, back in March, when you were at the seminar, I predicted that people were going to get 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 jobs, and it was going to cost the American economy between $15 and $30 billion in lost revenue. Equifax just did a study, internal study, where some of their employees had as many as 3 jobs, and it was a mystery to them. 2 hardcores ago, we proved to one of you that attended that his CFO had 3 jobs. And we hired him twice virtually at the hardcore for other jobs when he was supposedly your 100% CFO. Because most employment contracts will say that you're supposed to devote, all or almost all of your time to this one job. And I knew this was going to happen. And everybody's stunned. Is everybody stunned? Just as I knew this was going to happen. My company's not my family. Fed up with long hours, many employees have quietly decided to take it easy at work rather than quit their jobs. Either way, productivity's gone down. And when I say Andres Milner is the closest to 100% of working the program at 95, he worked a full-time job as a senior financial analyst for 50, 60 hours a week, plus he did QLA 50, 60 hours a week. His first deal was in December 2019, and he didn't quit his job until September 2020, when the cash flow from the existing business approximated what his salary was at his old job. This environment that we're in is perfect for the QLA model. Because one, a lot of people still work from home. And although we've had people work in another office and not at home, and they've been able to build up their dream team, their professionals, accountants and lawyers, their board, etc., and make acquisitions and still have a full-time job. Nothing can stop a man with the right mental attitude from achieving his goal. Nothing on earth can help a man with a wrong mental attitude. The biggest challenge some of you have in this room, based on, I read your files again last night, is, remember I said last night, what have you accomplished? What has your partner accomplished? What have your parents accomplished? And it's nothing, 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 nothing. You have a history of nothing, 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 nothing. Your role models have accomplished nothing, 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 nothing. So even though you're here, you're better than the YouTube people, and the YouTube people are better than the people that don't follow me on YouTube, but it's still separated. And the hardest thing, and 2 or 3 of you last night said, how do I change my mental attitude? How do I change my environment? It's like if you have cancer in your leg, normally they just chop your leg off, right? Or maybe you, doc, like we were talking about amputations yesterday, you just cut the fucker off. You're the average of the 5 people you spend most of the time with. A mom, blah, 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 okay? And since they are not in the business or don't have the expertise, experience to groom high-performance people, you got to get rid of them. Now, one last story before we tell YouTube to go away. We had a girl here 4 or 5 seminars ago. She worked at the Bellagio Hotel. I believe she was the head of human resources. I may get foggy on that, but I know one day she was coming up the employees elevator at the Bellagio, and next to the penthouse elevator at Bellagio. And Josh Kim, little Josh, was getting in the entrance of the owner's suites, penthouses in Bellagio, and she said, young man, I mean, you must be in the wrong elevator. Because he looks 15 forever. He still looks 15. And she says, no. He said, oh, I own that penthouse up there. And so they both didn't go into the elevators, or lifts as they would call them in this country. And he explained how he came here at 17 and now it's sex, drugs, and fucking rock and roll and, blah, blah, blah. And then a year later, she's sitting in the seminar about where this blonde lady's sitting right there. And I didn't find this out till graduation night. Her mother called here during the seminar. I didn't know that. To either beg her to drop out of the cult or whatever they think I am. And she told her mother to fuck off, and her mother had a heart attack during the fucking seminar. I would have jerked. I didn't know when I heard this, I didn't know whether to shit or go blind or jerk off on the fucking graduation table. I was so fucking happy. And nobody told me shit. 2 days later, I find out. And now, it's no surprise to me, she's crushing it. She's absolutely fucking crushing it. It'd be a better story if the old hag dropped dead, but she lived. Because the old hag is the reason why she's fucked up. There's a reason why we talk about pay price to action. How much are you willing to sacrifice? Okay, YouTube, bye-bye.